Okay, so I just pulled these chicken sausages off the smoker. They're ready to eat. They look delicious. I'm gonna slice them up, let them cool a little bit, and now I'll just give it a try. You wanna try a piece?
Sure.
So before you try it, do you wanna know what the secret ingredient is?
Sure. Oh.
Okay, so here's how we're gonna make the chicken sausage. I've got a nice Limb 1/2 horsepower grinder and a Limb Big Bite dual gear stuffer. I like both of them a lot, but you know, I wish I had a powered stuffer so it was really easy to make sausage without helpers. You don't need all that though. I've made some excellent sausage using a Kitchenaid attachment for my mixer. Now, first thing we have to do is cut up the chicken. I'm using boneless, skinless chicken thighs from Costco, and I always wondered if maybe using chicken breasts would create a better texture. Perhaps I'll do that in a future video. So I just cube them up, ensuring that I create pieces that will easily fit into my grinder. After I'm done with the chicken, I break out partially frozen container and I cut it up into manageable pieces. Last thing I do is break out the pork fat and cube it up. I'll then put my pan of cubed meat into the freezer for about 45 minutes. You see, it's always nice to have really cold meat when you're grinding. I also like throwing the actual grinder portion with the auger, the plate, and the blade into the freezer and getting it good and cold. The next step is to set up the grinder and get ready for business. Oh yeah, I also want to mix up the seasoning, that way I can add it to the meat and the grind will help to further mix it. I've got a bunch of seasonings to add and I'll put exact measurements down in the show notes. So pour the seasonings all over the meat and then mix it up by hand as best as you can. Once the meat is pretty well seasoned, then turn on your grinder and let it do the work for you. I usually run the meat through a 10mm plate for a pretty coarse grind. And for this sausage, when I got done grinding it, I put the meat in the freezer for 45 more minutes, and then I ground it again through the coarse plate. Now, lately, I've started running my second grind through a 3/16 inch plate, just to make the meat mixture look a little bit more emulsified. Coarse grind is nice, but I find my wife and kids prefer the finer grind, so I do what makes them happy. I sure wish I had a helper to help do cleanup. When I was cooking in KCBS competitions, I had a friend named Chris who was the chief slop bucket guy. Yeah, he always volunteered to do the cleaning. And every once in a while, I let him put the finishing touches on a turn-in box. Break out the stuffer and make sure you have ample counter room to stretch out the sausage. I also like using 2 clamps to secure my stuffer to the counter. You don't want that thing slipping around while you're filling a plump sausage. Lube up the stuffing tube and then feed the entire casing onto the tube. Once you get it on there, I like to crank the stuffer until I have sausage just about ready to come out the tube, and then I tie a knot in the end. Now it's time to start stuffing. I use my left hand to hold the links and apply gentle pressure to either restrict the movement of the casing to make sure it gets nice and plump, or to ease up on the pressure so the casing doesn't burst. Another thing I like to do is tie off each individual sausage length. If I was working with a bigger batch, I might just make a rope of sausage and then pinch and roll. But I'm working with a small amount, and it's easier for me to make them pretty uniform, and you know, it's just generally easier for one-person operations. Once I finished stuffing all the sausage, I like to throw it in a pan and then put it in the fridge for a bit. The fridge does a good job of drying out the casing, so the smoke adheres better and you end up with a nice finished product. You're not really looking for a nice clean smoke that you might be familiar with for long barbecue cooks. Once the sausage is dried a bit, you can separate the links because now you don't have to worry about the casings unraveling. Then add the sausage to your smoker. We're gonna let it go for about an hour and a half before we check it. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now we're gonna flip them over and let them smoke for another hour and a half. Once they're done, pull them from the smoker and submerge them into an ice bath. The bath does a couple things for you. It helps to stop the cooking and it also tightens up the casings so it'll have a nice pop. You're gonna have to cook them a bit more before you eat them. I like to get my smoker or grill up to about 275 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I throw the little chicken sausages on there for about 30 to 40 minutes, or until the internal temperature is around 165 degrees Fahrenheit. It's chicken liver.
Oh.
Making sausages from scratch is a lot of fun, and there are so many different types that you can make and your friends will enjoy. Barbecuing ribs is another one of those things that is guaranteed to make you the favorite neighbor. I'll see you over in this next video about another secret tip that I share for making delicious ribs.